All right, and welcome everyone to our first project here, Unit 2, Activity 2, dealing with making your own ball bounce. Now we're using the most recent version of Blender. First thing we're going to want to do is open that attached file, multiball-290.blend. You should be able to download that elsewhere. I just have it here in my downloads folder. I'm going to go ahead and double click and open it. And I'm going to get a little pop-up that asks me, am I sure I want to open this file? I'm going to go ahead and say yes, that's perfectly fine by me. Once that's done, we're going to want to go ahead and check out this file. Look at that. The ball is pre-made for you. You see it's got those little rings around it, kind of like a hula hoop. This is how we're going to be able to move and navigate around our object. Now, for our assignment, what we're going to be doing is to have this ball actually bounce down a set of stairs. So we're going to need to create those stairs in a moment. We're also going to want to be working with the graph editor. So in a little bit here, we're going to want to open up a new workspace. That's really easy to do. We're going to go up into the upper right-hand corner of our current workspace. That's this 3D void we're in. You'll go until you see your mouse turn to a little plus sign. And then you're going to go ahead and drag down, click and drag down, there you go. And you'll see that I have two windows. Now I can change what this window is to anything I want. But in our case, we're going to want to change it to the graph editor. And it's going to be over here. Oop, there we go. Kind of in the middle there. There you go. Now, as we start animating, this blue line here is going to get edited and changed, and you'll see it bend all over the place. Down here on the bottom is our timeline. That's our regular animation area. We really don't need that area. We're going to be hanging out in the graph editor. But what we do need to do is click this little white circle, and that's going to automatically keep all of our keyframes. So anything we move from here on out will be automatically remembered by the computer. I can always click the I key, and then I can set keyframes individually if I wanted to. All right, now moving on. So we've got our sphere here. I'm going to go ahead and just move this sphere. I want to push it off to the side so I can start building my set of stairs. That's going to be the next tackle challenge here that we've got to do. So let's go ahead and do that. So I've selected my object. It looks like my tools are currently missing, so I need to bring those back. And I want to switch from pose mode into object mode. So let's do both of those. We'll get rid of our timeline. We don't really need that, at least not right now. And let's see, expand this out. I don't need any of those preferences. And right here you can see I've got my view menu. I'm going to click to view my toolbar. Bring that back as well. Okay. Now that we've got that, I'm going to move my sphere off to the side. Doesn't really matter exactly where you put it. We'll readjust it here later on in a moment, but just so that it's not smack in the middle, because that's where all of our new cubes are going to be going. All right, so let's change from pose mode into object mode, and now we have new options here to click on Add, Mesh, and I'm going to add a cube, plain and simple. Now, I want a laptop. And I have a hard time because I want to be able to click the number 1 key so I can see my cube in a front-on orthographic view. I can kind of emulate that by going into my Edit, Preferences, Input, and click on Emulate Number Pad. Now when I click the number 1 key, you see it takes me automatically smack on the side of my cube. This really works well because I don't need to see the cube in 3 dimensions. What I do need to do, though, is to change that top window to my properties. Now that I've got my properties window here set up, just like so, I can grab this box and I can start typing in the numbers that I need. In our case, we've got our location Z is going to be set to 1, scale X is going to be set to 1.5, and scale Y is going to be set to 5. So we're going to have a really long narrow stair. Now, if I hold down Shift and the letter D, D is in dog, I can click and duplicate that stair. Look at that. I can do it again. Now we got 3 stairs, and see, they're still technically in 3D. There they are. Let's make a 4th one as well. I'm just going to move my screen here, Shift D, and duplicate. There we go. So we have 4 stairs kind of floating in space there, and we can shift away from our properties back to our graph editor. Okay, so that's it. The stairs have been modeled. You've made them. They're ready to go. Let's put a floor at the bottom so that whenever the ball gets down to the bottom, it has something to land on. Because even though you and I see this grid, whenever we go to render it, this grid will actually disappear. It's just for our sake. So I'm going to do add mesh, and then I'm going to select plane. Let's go back to that properties window. And we can change these numbers, or if I wanted to, I could just grab the scale tool and I can edit it manually if I want to. Sometimes whenever it comes to modeling, it actually helps to edit manually. Other times, whenever modeling, it really does help to use those properties and edit your numbers manually. It depends on what you prefer, right? Do you want something more mathematical, or do you want something that's going to be a little more freeform, maybe more organic? So let's check that out real quick. I'm just going to slide this over here with my move tool. See, there it is, kind of narrow. I need to widen it out, don't I? Well, again, I can scale it just using my scale tool like that. That's not really super precise, though. Look at that number. Let's just change that real quick from a 4.9 to 5. Why not? And we'll change that one to a 1 as well. Okay, so now we're all lined up. We have floor. We have 4 steps. Looking pretty good. Now at this point, I need to decide what type of ball do I want, right? So this ball right here that we see with the little blue stripe, the orange ball, this is the automatic set kind of rubber bouncy ball. But the reason that we open this file is it actually comes preset, predetermined with different styles, different textures. And so we can kind of adjust how we want the ball to look. So I'm going to change the scale of my ball to make it as large as I want it to be. I think that's pretty good for the scale of the stairs there. Over here you see in our properties menu, I can actually take this ball. I'm going to move him to the top. Just going to grab my move tool. Let's just line it up here. And hang on one second. All right. So let's move this on up here. You see, so I'm kind of just imagining what this ball bounce is going to look like here. Remember that we're still technically on frame 1, and it is remembering the position of all of these objects, but we haven't moved our keyframe. We haven't moved our frames yet, so we're still kind of playing just in the very first frame of our animation. This will make sense here in a moment. So I'm going to place the ball here on the top shelf, the top step. And over here on the right-hand side, the upper right-hand side, you see there's my actual ball, and then here's the different types of balls that are pre-designed, the different spheres that we can choose from. And you can see, again, they have a tennis ball, a bowling ball, different types. I'm going to stick to just the main orange with the blue stripe there, the kind of rubber bouncy ball. I think that's what I want. And when I grab that individual different object here, I can actually go in on the right-hand side on the bottom and change the texture, or I can actually change the material itself. So check this out. I'm going to go ahead and just select the rubber bouncy ball that I'm going with here. There we go. And when I do, you can see here's my materials. There's an orange material and a blue material, and I can change those colors, and look right there. Changes the color of my object. So everything can be manipulated. You can really make this your own, exactly how you want it to be. All right, so I'm pretty happy. I think I'm actually gonna, let's just change that back real quick. Instead of this lime green kind of tennis ball color, let's put it back the way it was to kind of an orange. I think orange and blue go well together, complementary colors. All right, looking good. Okay, so we're pretty much done over in this menu here. We'll just close that up. All right, now we get to the animation itself. So here's our ball, right? We know that on top is kind of our timeline, also known as the graph editor. And really quickly, this is going to start looking pretty goofy. It's going to start looking very different. We can actually use the graph editor, though, to make some beautiful animation. So frame 1, it's at the top of the stairs. I'm going to jump all the way down to frame 100 and put it at the bottom of the stairs. And whenever I scrub through this timeline, you're going to see that the ball just kind of hovers, just floats between the 2 frames, because that's all it really knows right now, is that it knows frame 1, and it knows frame 100. So you see here, I'm scrubbing through, and it just kind of floats right through those steps. So we don't want that. We want it to bounce on this stairway. So let's go over a little bit. If I was going to take 1 to 100, I've got 4 steps here. I need to divide it out a little bit. Let's do, I don't know, every 20 frames. Remember that they're frames, not seconds. So every 20 frames or so, maybe it hits the next stair. So I'm only thinking about the bottom of the ball right now, right? I'm not thinking about the arc as it bounces, just thinking where it lands. So we'll do frame 20, frame 40, we'll do frame 60, and you don't have to do these actual numbers. This is just kind of an arbitrary choice. You can make yours bounce quicker or slower depending on what kind of ball it is, right? You know what? Let's fit another ball bounce in there. So it hits the floor, and then we'll just have it hit the floor a second time. So it'll bounce one extra time. Makes the math a little bit easier. Instead of 4 stairs, we'll do 5 bounces. Okay. All right. So looking pretty good. Now we can backtrack, and let's go, instead of frame 20, where it landed on the first step, let's go to frame 10, and this will be the height of the arc, right? So it bounces up and then back down, up and then back down. So there's the height of the arc right there. And notice how my graph editor, you can kind of see the arc there, can't you? That kind of archway there. Let's do it again. So on frame 30, we make the height of the arch, right? Again, let's go over to frame 50. We're doing all the odds now. 70 and 90, and that'll be the height of those bounces. Okay, let's check it out. All right, coming down, 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 down. Well, it looks like a good ball bounce, but it looks very stiff, doesn't it? Very robotic. We want to add a little bit of panache, maybe some ease in and ease out. So I can actually zoom in. See all these arcs? I can grab this little handlebar and move it. But right now, everything is selected. So as I start stretching and squashing this, it's actually stretching and squashing everything. So the ball is kind of getting larger, the scale is changing. We don't want that. So I'm going to undo just by doing Control Z there, or Command Z. What if I just select the blue line? Just one individual node. So I'm going to click there, and now I can edit how the ball eases in and eases out. If I make the arc a little bit wider, it goes slower. If I make it a little bit more narrow, whoop, it goes kind of up and down really quickly. So I can really edit and change without ever actually making any more keyframes, right? The computer is doing all the interpolation for us, right? So there's a nice kind of nice arc to the entire design right there. So that's looking pretty good. Let's keep this going, right? What if I were to edit all of these different arcs, right? More ease in, more ease out. It could look a little bit more organic, like a little bit more realistic. Something else it could do that can make it look even more realistic. Think about a rubber ball, how it kind of squishes, right? Whenever it hits the ground, it squishes against the ground. We call that squash and stretch. I can actually do that myself by using the scale tool, right? So let's say on frame 1 here, we're going to squash it down. The force of gravity is pushing against it. And let's do that every time it hits the ground, it squishes down. So let's do that for every frame there. 20, 40, 60, and so on. We're just going to squish it down when it hits the floor. We'll have it squash back up again, right? We'll have it bounce off in a second here, but we're going to get every time it hits the floor, it's going to squish down almost like a flat little pancake. All right, just like that. And notice again, in this case, I'm only using that blue arrow that you see, so I can squish it vertically, but leaving everything else the same. All right, so again, I've got a nice arc. There's a good sense of kind of squash here. We want squash and stretch though. So what happens if maybe as it's bouncing up, right, maybe like frame 5 or so, that inertia, that push down is now springing upwards, right? That force is pushing back, right? And as it starts to fall, so maybe frame 15, gravity is pulling it down, so it starts to stretch again. So we get this squash and stretch. Squash and stretch, this bounce, right? And the more you squash and stretch, the more rubbery, the more bouncy it looks. So if you chose to do, say, the bowling ball, there's going to be very little squash and stretch. It's going to feel very stiff and hard, and it's not going to want to feel very bouncy. If you did the tennis ball or this rubber ball here that I'm working on, then it's going to feel very bouncy. So use your knowledge of physics, right? This is like a math lesson now. Use your knowledge of physics to push and pull, squash and stretch. You can go into the graph editor and ease in and ease out by adjusting those individual nodes, those little teeter-totter kind of anchor points there, right? Look at that. That looks much more realistic than before. And really, this didn't take us all that long. We made the stairs from scratch. The ball already existed, right? But it's just understanding how the computer can help us, so that instead of having to make every individual keyframe, we can use the power of the computer to do all the in-betweens for us. It makes our life so much easier. And again, it really looks very professional. This is the same way that professional animators are working in their animation. They're letting the computer do the hard and heavy lifting for them, right? So again, I'm just clicking on individual nodes here in the graph editor, these little anchor points. I'm grabbing those little handlebars and stretching them out because I want, whenever it hits the ground, I want it to really hold, right? I want to see the force pushing down and then it springs back up really quickly, right? So the top of the arc is quick, the bottom of the arc is slow. This is how I'm choosing to do it. You might choose to do it a different way, and that's the best part. There's no correct way, right? It's how you are going to bring life to your ball. Look at that. Ah, I love it. I love it. Look at how realistic that looks, or maybe how not realistic. It looks like a cartoon, doesn't it? So I want you to experiment. I want you to feel comfortable experimenting and make this your own. This is your project. It's your design. Have a great time, guys. And when you're all done, export that video, send it off to your teacher. And if you get stuck, make sure to reach out to your teacher as well. All the best. See ya.